The views, information, and opinions expressed during the following program are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent the views of Access Communications, its representatives, or its employees.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of Weyburn City Council, held here at Council Chambers at 6 p.m. Monday, February 12th, 2024. Tonight we have one council member is absent, and we have a youth councillor here also. We have Mason Sadlowski with, you are in what grade, Mason?
Grade 12.
Grade 12. Good, very good. And this is this the first year you're on council here?
I was in here for the first 10 minutes of about 2 meetings, I think, and then.
Okay, no, but I mean, this is the first year on council?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So it's not like you were returning one from last year. So, well, welcome here, and I hope that you can glean some knowledge of municipal politics as you sit here and you work. And so, again, our council would like to welcome you, and we're always good to see to have the youth have their input there. Mr. Richards and others work well with you. Going forward on the number one, we need approval of the minutes of the regular meeting and strategic planning and priorities meeting that was held January 22nd, 2024. Do I have a motion, please?
Your Worship, I'll make the motion that the minutes of the regular council meeting and the strategic planning and priorities committee meeting held January the 22nd, 2024 be accepted as presented.
Second?
Your Worship, I'll second that motion.
Discussion? Seeing no discussion, call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Additions to the agenda, Ms. Warren?
No, there's none from administration tonight, Your Worship.
Council? Seeing none. We have no public hearing notices, no delegations, proclamations, or petitions tonight. Reports, there's no reports of standing committees. We have our consent agenda tonight consists of the cash activity report, February 12th, the building report of January, the water treatment plant report, and the public works report. Do we have a motion to receive and file?
Your Worship, I would move that the following items on the consent agenda be approved. A cash activity report for December, building department report for January, water treatment plant report for January, and the public works report for January.
Your Worship, I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. And all of these reports can be found on our city website. Motions. Accounts payable. Do you have a motion, please?
Your Worship, I'll make a motion to purchases in the amount of $1,989,856.22 from January 1st, 2024 to January 31st, 2024 be passed for payment. Purchases include accounts payable in the amount of $1,382,634.79. Direct withdrawals in the amount of $603,043.65, and debit card transactions in the amount of $4,177.78.
Your Worship, I'll second that motion.
Discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Tax enforcement, tax arrears report.
Yes, good evening. So I have the 2023 year-end property tax arrears report. In accordance with Section 3 of the Tax Enforcement Act, here's a list of all properties that have unpaid taxes as of December 31st, 2023. These properties, upon notice, have 60 days to pay all the arrears and applicable fees. After 60 days, a lien will be registered on the title of the property that if they are still unpaid. So the total amount is $241,680.16. There's 73 properties.
Your Worship, I'd like to make a motion that the tax enforcement arrears list for 2023 totaling $241,680.16 provided by the City Assessor be accepted as presented.
And Your Worship, I will second that motion.
So, discussion? Can I bet you?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, Laura, I just want to I'll ask you, I think I've asked this before, but just to clarify that this whole process is a legislated process by the Cities Act, I believe, so we have no alternative but to follow the rules. And if they go into tax enforcement, it's not the city being the big bad guys really so much as that we're just following the legislation.
Yeah, that's correct. So we do just mostly encourage people to come in and make an effort to put payments on their taxes as much as they can. Because we don't really want to take any properties. But we do have to follow legislation.
Yeah, so if a resident comes in and tries to make an arrangements, then that'll actually, we can sidestep for a little while the lien process. Thank you.
The question I have, a couple questions, I guess, question and a comment. Number one is, in comparison to last year, just to see whether we're going up or down on this, in comparison, do we have more people not paying their taxes at this time, or was it higher last year or lower?
It was actually higher last year. It was around 315,000.
Okay, so, and then the other thing that, for the viewing audience here to know, and I've said this numerous times, the problem with this is these unpaid taxes, that half of this is school tax, and we are, as the city, are on the hook to pay the school tax at the end of last year, right? So of that 240, so roughly maybe $120,000 is school tax. We have to pony up that school tax to the province, whether we've collected it or not, and they say, too bad, it's up to you, deal with it, but we want our $120,000, and we have to sit and wait. So it costs us more money that way too. So it's a strain all the way through. So do not really quite, so we're not, when they say, if they think that we're the big bad guys that are doing it, there's a reason why we have to collect, because we're getting tagged with this, and we don't need to do that, and the rest of the citizens doesn't need to do that either. Call the question, all in favor? Carried unanimously. Introduction of bylaws, zoning bylaw amendment. Mr. Warren?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. So I have a bylaw amendment application from Kenjo Holdings requesting that lots 1 through 18 on Block 1 of Plant 102, 319107 be rezoned from R3, which is residential multi-housing, to R1, which is residential detached. So we have to go through the public notice process. So if council provides first reading tonight for bylaw 2024-3475, then a public notice will be sent out in accordance with the city's public notice policy. And a public hearing would occur on March 11th of 2024 at a regular council meeting. So as located on the map, on the figures below, it shows the 18 lots in discussion. So Kenjo Holding, which is Conwood Development, is right by where St. Mike's School is located. And here's an aerial shot of the development as well. So again, I said the site is the location of Conwood Project Residential Development. Reason for the amendments is to allow for development of residential detached dwelling units in keeping with R1 regulations, which is within zoning bylaw of 2020 3412. So within the official community plan of 2020-3411, the property is currently designated as residential on the land use designation map. There are several relevant policies in the residential development policies, including 3.1.1 to locate residential development to be compatible with our uses. 3.1.6, optimize the use of existing municipal infrastructure when planning new residential development. 3.1.7, identify existing and future residential needs of the community along the entire housing continuum. 3.1.8, new residential developments will, wherever possible, be contiguous with existing urban development. 3.1.14, residential areas will be provided with right access to park and open space areas and to the Tagawa Parkway through linkages from one to another where possible. So the zoning amendment is for the property to be rezoned from one residential zone to another so it's consistent with the residential land use designation and associated residential development policies. So as per our zoning bylaw of 2020-3412, applicant has requested a change from the R1 to move forward with that. So the R1 zone is the most restrictive residential area for development of detached dwelling units. It is the principal zone for single family development in the suburban area of the city. The standards in the zone are designated to preserve and protect the suburban residential community character of this area. So listed in table 5.2 is both permitted and discretionary uses for R1 zoned areas. So a couple options for council to discuss tonight. Option one, council give first reading to bylaw 2024-3475, being a bylaw to amend the zoning bylaw to rezone the aforementioned lands from R3 to R1 and direct administration to advertise bylaw 2024-3475 as per the public notice policy. Option two is to refuse to do the first reading for the bylaw tonight. And then if there is a reason for refusal, you have to provide that back. So staff recommendation is for council to give the first reading to bylaw 2024-3475 to amend the zoning bylaw as mentioned above.
Do you have a motion?
Your worship, I'll make the motion that bylaw 2024-3475, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2020-3412, the zoning bylaw for the purpose of amending the land use designation lots 1 through 18, block 1, plan 102319-107 from residential municipal housing or multiple housing zone to the residential detached zone be read a first time, and that staff be directed to advertise bylaw 2024-3475 as per the public notice policy.
Your worship, I'll second that motion.
Discussion? I'm just going to pick your brain just for a minute, because just to make sure that it's really simplistically put. So moving from one, they say, to detached, what's the difference there?
So it's the type of housing. So the request from this is because of how it was currently zoned. The house that's been requested for that area does not fit within that zoning. So that's why we're looking at changing.
When you say detached, meaning that no detached garage or?
Single family.
Single family.
Single family.
Yep.
Okay, and moving from what to single family?
Correct.
Okay. I thought that was always there, but okay. So, go ahead, no.
Yeah, the only comment I have, I think it's a pretty small change, and I think it's very positive, and hopefully it'll help to kickstart this development that they've put a lot of money and effort into. So I think it's great.
Yeah, and the one positive that I did not include in the report is actually this area fits within the Weyburn Builds program. So people who do build houses have an opportunity for more incentives within that area. It is an older area of the city. So it's really exciting to see that as an opportunity as well to have that development continue and grow.
Okay. Call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. There's no unfinished business. Under new business, we have a home-based business application. If you would, please, Matthew.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. So we have a home-based application with a request to operate a personal service home-based business, which would be an eyelash and eyebrow aesthetics out of the residence at number 4, 238 4th Street Northeast. This is located within the R2 zone. The landlord of the premise has provided her written permission for the applicant to operate a business at this residence. This would be considered a controversial use, as this business involves clients be directed to the home throughout the day. The proposed hours of operations will be Monday to Friday, and also having Sundays. The applicant anticipated a minimal traffic increase with one vehicle per appointment, and the driveway parking is available. So we do neighborhood notices for this request. So as it's controversial, the home-based business, which involves clients attending the home, go through the neighborhood notice process and receive council approval. Neighborhood notices were mailed out on January 8, 2024 to all neighbors within the 50-meter radius of the applicant's home. Residents receiving the notice were given opportunity to provide comment on the application. No concerns or objections were received. So we have under Figure 1 is the location of 238 4th Street. So home-based businesses are permitted use. I mean, the landlords have the right to undertake the use in accordance with the bylaw unless provisions of the bylaw are specifically contravened. Home-based businesses generally must meet the following provisions. Be incidental to the use of the premise as a residence, be compatible with the residential uses, be limited in the extent in terms of the volume and materials sold and number of clients, not substantially increase in the volume of traffic, and not to detract from the residential character of the zone. The use identified would be considered controversial under Section 5.1.19 of the zoning bylaw, as clients will be directed towards the home. Staff have reviewed the application and are in the opinion that the home-based business application meets the requirements of the zoning bylaw. Therefore, we are going to be making a recommendation to council based on option number 1, which is council approves home-based business permit 2024.001 at number 4, 238 4th Street, subject to the following conditions. No person other than a resident of the dwelling unit shall be engaged in the home-based business as an employee or volunteer. No advertisement carrying out the address of the dwelling in which the home-based business occurs may be placed in any media. The home-based business shall not occupy more than 25% of the gross floor area of the dwelling unit. The face of any home-based business sign on site must not exceed 0.092 meters squared and must be placed within the inside half of the front yard setback. This permit is only valid for the above address and is non-transferable to another address. Reapplication is required if the business moves to another location. Home-based businesses are subject to reviews to ensure compliance. Applicants' driveways shall be used for off-site parking for their clients, and a City of Weyburn business license shall be obtained prior to operation of the home-based business. So then option 2 is to provide refusal. As stated, administration is provide option number 1 as our recommendation.
Have a motion, please.
Your Worship, I move the council approve the home-based business permit 2024.001 at number 4, 238 4th Street, subject to the conditions as presented.
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Discussion? The one question that I have is that they can advertise in media so long as they do not show the address, right?
That's correct. So it says here, no advertisements carrying the address of the dwelling in which the home-based business occurs.
So that doesn't limit them from advertising on Facebook or other business. They just can't show the
They
address.
can't provide their address.
Right. They can provide the phone number, but not the address. Okay. Good. Just so long as the person here understands this for the home base.
Yeah, and Your Worship, there's a great job done by our administrative staff, and Christine Ball does a great job of explaining that stuff to them. And Megan Abel, through her business licenses as well, does a great job explaining that to them when they come through, make sure they understand the rules and regulations that they have to follow.
And that's the purpose of us having a business license, although the business licenses aren't that expensive, but it's just to make sure we have an orderly fashion and orderly way of doing things here. Very good. Call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Inquiries and announcements. Inquiries, yes.
Thank you, Your Worship. Culture Days. I don't want to think too far into the year yet, but Culture Days is coming up in September, and putting on something like this is a huge undertaking. So if you're interested in helping out, the Culture Days information night is February the 27th at 7 o'clock at the Spark Center.
And speaking of the Spark Center, I'm going to put you on the spot. Our art thing is coming up. When is that? The People's Choice Awards?
Oh, yes. The James Weir People's Choice Awards, you can vote until March the 17th, I think is the final date. But definitely check out the Arts Council website, and they'll have all the details.
Good. Anything else from the council? I just want to make mention that as we were talking to, I brought forward some people's kind of comments to our engineering about some of the roads. People are complaining about the potholes in the roads, but I mean, at this point in time, our engineering can explain, but I'll paraphrase, and is to say that we're having, it's great, it's a very, very difficult year, as we know. It freezes, it warms, it snows, we've got slush, you can't fill the potholes. This type of weather just destroys roads because water gets in it and it pops pavement. And plus, most of the complaints we have are on Government Road and on First Avenue, which is huge. Those are interconnecting highways, which contain a lot of traffic. Anything else I may have missed there?
I'll just add that we are doing cold mix and gravel in the potholes as we can, but unfortunately those are very temporary fixes that don't last very long. So we do have the crews out doing their best to fill those potholes. But as Mayor Roy mentioned, those are urban highway connectors where most of the traffic is, and those are roads that are tied to provincial funding. So we have to have the province provide us funding to help repair those roads as well. So we do apply for them every year to have them fixed. It just is dependent on provincial funding on when we can do permanent fixes on them. But we do patch them as often as we can. Unfortunately, those patches are only temporary in the winter.
Still have 2 more months until we start getting dry weather, so we have to just kind of bear with what we can do, and we're trying to do the best. Our crews are trying to do the best they can. Anything else? Seeing nothing more, there are no notices of motion, and with that, we will call this meeting adjourned.
If you'd like to share your feedback on the program you just watched, contact us today